It was already late morning, well past the respectable hour for discipline, structured breathing, and rigid moral superiority. The sun stood high and unapologetic above cloud recesses, its light spilling across the training courtyard where its young disciples lay in various states of elegant ruin. They had finished their rounds of practice, and by finished it meant they had survived. The juniors were scattered across the stone steps like fallen leaves, collapsed, dramatic, entirely unrefined, and pretending they were not seconds away from dissolving into dust. Lanjingi, as always, was the first to abandon dignity. He flung himself backward with theatrical flair, landing with a soft thump against the stone behind him. Then, with solemn exaggeration, he pressed a hand over his heart and declared to the heavens, I'm dying. This is it. Tell my sect leader I perished honorably during morning practice. Let it be recorded in the annals. Jinling did not even look up at first. He calmly unscrewed his water flask and then replied in a flat tone, You tripped over your own sword. Twice. Lan Jingyi shot upright instantly as if outrage alone had revived him. That was tactical. Jinling took a sip. Entirely unimpressed, it was embarrassing. Lan Jingyi lifted his chin, gathering what remained of his dignity. I was testing gravity, he insisted gravely. A very advanced cultivation technique you wouldn't understand. Jinling rolled his eyes so hard it was a miracle they did not detach and roll down the mountain. Beside him, Lan Shizui adjusted his sleeves with quiet composure. Jingi, he said gently, you declared your death 3 days ago as well. Yes, Lan Jingi replied with hesitation, but this time I meant it. A few nearby juniors nodded. Lan Shizui's laughter faded first. His gaze drifted, subtle, deliberate, toward the stone path leading up to the Jingshi. He lingered there for a moment before asking quietly, Has anyone seen Hangwanjun today? Lan Jingyi, who had been muttering about how excessive practice was a violation of human rights, shot upright immediately. Hangwanjun? He squeaked. He whipped his head around wildly, eyes wide, as if expecting Lan Wangji to appear behind him at any moment. Where? Lan Shizui blinked at him. That is not what I meant. Jinky froze mid-panic. He's not here? No, Shizui said gently. There was a brief pause. Then Jinky deflated, shoulders dropping as relief replaced alarm. Oh, he said, exhaling. You scared me. I asked if anyone had seen him, Shizui clarified. Jinling watched the exchange with a small smirk. For someone who behaves so recklessly, you fear Hangwanjun a lot. Jingy gasped, scandalized. You say that as if you don't. I don't. Jinling shot back immediately. His voice cracked halfway through. Jingy caught it at once, his expression lighting up with delight. Oh, was that confidence I just heard shatter? It did not shatter, Jinling snapped. My throat is dry. You sound like a broken flute. At least I don't panic when someone says his name. You panicked just now. I did not. You absolutely did. They fell into an argument, voices overlapping, sharp and familiar, the voice breaking the quiet of the courtyard as if nothing else in the world required their attention. Before Jingy could spiral fully into another dramatic enactment, Lan Shizui stepped in. Oh my, stop arguing, both of you, he said, his tone gentle but firm. This is not about who fears Hangwanjun more. Jingy muttered under his breath, just loud enough to be heard. It's Jinling. It is not, Jinling shot back immediately. It is. Lan Shizui did not respond to that. Zewuchun had given them clear instructions. calm, composed, and without room for interpretation. They were not to disturb Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian. No explanation had been offered, no time frame given, only the quiet directive, delivered with a smile that somehow carried more weight than any strict command. And so they obeyed. Training continued as usual. In the absence of both Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian, Lan Shizui took on the responsibility without complaint. He moved among the juniors, correcting stances, adjusting grips, reminding them to remain focused even when attention drifted too easily. But something had changed. An unspoken tension lingered, settling quietly among them. Concern, though none of them voiced it outright. By the standards of cloud races, where time itself was treated with near reverence, this was late, very late. One of the younger disciples finally spoke, squinting toward the distant path as if sheer will might reveal something hidden there. Is he really in the Jingxi? He asked, unease slipping into his voice. It's already 11. Hang Wenjun would never be this late if he were still here. Another shifted closer, lowering his voice instinctively, as though the thought itself required caution. What if he is ill? Jinky dismissed it immediately, waving a hand with careless certainty. Hang Wenjun? Fall ill? Impossible. He's practically carved out of. He stopped. The words fell away on their own, because they all remembered. When Wei Wuxian had gone missing, Lin Wangji had not stopped. Not for rest, not for injury, not for anything that should have mattered. He had searched without pause, through rain, through exhaustion, through pain that would have broken anyone else. That kind of devotion had never been gentle. It had been relentless. The memory lingered, quiet but heavy, something none of them wanted to speak aloud. Jingy cleared his throat, the earlier certainty gone. Well, he doesn't fall ill easily, he amended more quietly. Jilling folded his arms, expression tightening slightly. And Uncle V hasn't been seen either. By now his voice should be echoing across half of Cloud Recesses. That's true, another junior added. It's strangely quiet. Too quiet. They all felt it. It means something, one of them whispered. Jinling coughed into his fist, his tone forced into dismissal. That doesn't mean anything. It absolutely does, one of them insisted. If anyone could undo Hang Wanjun's schedule, it's Wei Gongzi. Another added, nodding with certainty. It is a historical fact, Jingi agreed at once. He straightened the already building momentum. If Wei Gongzi says let's go left, he continued dramatically, Hang Wenjun goes left. That is not how it works, Shizui protested softly. A younger disciple leaned in slightly, lowering his voice to a whisper. I think they are. He stopped. Every face turned red at once. Silence followed, complete, immediate, suffocating. No one finished the thought. Even the birds seemed to pause. After a long moment, one junior cleared his throat far too loudly. Perhaps, he said, forcing composure back into place. They went on a night hunt yesterday and returned very late. They must be exhausted. Yes, yes, that makes sense. Night hunt. Very tiring, extremely tiring. They all nodded. A little too quickly, a little too eagerly. I think they are resting, Jinling concluded stiffly. Resting, Shizui echoed. Resting. The others agreed in unison. It settled over them like an official explanation. And just as clearly, it was not the explanation any of them actually believed. Jinky frowned, thinking. Even then, he said, still unconvinced, Hangwanjun never sleeps during the day. Ever. It's already 11. Jinling turned on him immediately. Must you analyze everything? Yes, Jingi replied defensively. It's suspicious. Lan Shizui tried to intervene, his cheeks faintly pink. Some matters do not require analysis. What matters? Jingi demanded. The kind you are too loud to understand. Jinling muttered under his breath, just loud enough to be heard. I understand everything. Jingi protested at once. You absolutely do not. Jinling and Shizui said at the same time. Jingi stared at them, scandalized. Why are you both acting like this? You're the suspicious ones. Then suddenly he gasped, his expression shifting again. What if something happened during the night hunt? Shizui blinked, caught off guard. Like? I don't know. Jingi threw his arms out wildly. Ambush? Spiritual backlash? A cursed chicken? Jinling frowned, already trying to follow the logic. Why would a chicken? Wi Gongzi, Jingi said pointedly. There was a pause. Fair. Jinling admitted a little reluctantly. The tension shifted again, settling into something uneasy, half concern, half absurd speculation. And just as the conversation threatened to spiral completely out of control, a junior who had been quiet until now shifted nervously. I saw them earlier, he said carefully. The effect was immediate. Every head turned toward him at once. Jingy froze mid-retort, mouth still slightly open. You what? Jinling demanded. Where? Shizui asked, his tone calm but the urgency beneath it unmistakable. On the main path, near the inner courtyard, the junior replied. The moment the words left him, he regretted them. The way they were looking at him, it wasn't curiosity, it was something far more intense. He felt it immediately, like pressure closing in from all sides. Why are they staring at me like that? Jingy leaned forward first, eyes lighting up with dangerous excitement. Well, Jinling crossed his arms, his gaze narrowing. Explain. Shizui's expression remained gentler, but no less focused. What did you see exactly? The junior swallowed. Suddenly, it felt less like he had shared information and more like he had stepped into something he could not step back from. As though he were standing on trial, and if he failed to answer properly, he might not survive it. Not literally, probably. He swallowed again, already regretting it. He should have stayed quiet, nodded perhaps, and pretended ignorance. But no, he had spoken, and now there was no taking it back. The questions came at once, overlapping, relentless. Were they arguing? Were they injured? Did Wei Gongzi look smug? He always looks smug, Jinling muttered under his breath. I, I, the junior stammered, his face heating rapidly. Yes? Jingy pressed, leaning in closer, eyes sharp with interest. I saw them walking on the main path, he repeated. But the way he said it, the crack in his voice, the deepening flush across his face, suspicious, extremely suspicious. Jinling narrowed his eyes, walking. Yes, people walk every day. Yes, and that made you blush like that? Jingy demanded. I'm not blushing. You absolutely are. Several voices said at once. The junior clutched at his sleeve, as if it could shield him from the scrutiny. It was just the way they were walking. A collective inhale moved through the group. How? Jingy asked immediately. Side by side? Jinling suggested. They always walk side by side. Close? Another junior offered. They are always close. The junior made a small strangled sound. Closer than usual? Jinky leaned so far forward he nearly tipped over. I maybe What does maybe mean? Jinling snapped. Define closer, someone else insisted. Lan Shizui, still trying to maintain some semblance of order, spoke more gently. Were they speaking? Yes. About what? I couldn't hear. Then what did you see? Jinling pressed. He stopped. There were too many eyes, too many questions, too much expectation. He was drowning completely. He tried one last indirect escape. They were very close, he said carefully, choosing each word as if it might save him. And facing each other. Silence followed, not immediately but spreading. Uneven at first, then settling heavier with each passing second. A few of them blinked, a few of them understood. The ones who understood went scarlet almost instantly. The ones who didn't only leaned in further, confusion sharpening into curiosity. The junior's thoughts stuttered, then stalled completely. They were discussing something, he added weakly, clinging to the safest version of events he could manage. That should have ended there, but didn't. He made the mistake of continuing after a pause, with their faces very close. That made it worse. Shizui's eyes widened, just slightly but enough. Jinling's jaw dropped entirely. Then what exactly were they doing? Jinling demanded, his tone sharper now. The courtyard fell into deeper stillness. Even the breeze seemed to hesitate, as though unwilling to disturb whatever was about to happen next. The junior raised both hands to his face as if hiding might somehow undo the moment. I cannot say. You absolutely must say, Jingi insisted, already leaning forward. If you don't, Jinling added, his voice lowering, we will assume the worst. It is the worst, the boy wailed. Lan Shuzi's composure finally cracked, just enough for it to show. The worst? The younger disciple, still trying to piece it together, grew increasingly frustrated. Why are you speaking in riddles? Just say it. The pressure built, the silence tightened. The junior reached his breaking point. He dragged in a breath and shouted, I saw them kissing all right. The words exploded into the courtyard, loud, bright, undeniable. They echoed once against stone and wood. Then everything stopped. Not gradually, not uncertainly, completely. Every junior stared at the unfortunate boy as though he had just split the sky open with his bare hands. The declaration hung in the air like a thunderclap, shocking enough to feel as if it had struck the ancestral tablets themselves. For a moment, the courtyard seemed to hold its breath. Even the wind that had been drifting lazily through the training grounds appeared to withdraw, leaving the space suspended in an uneasy stillness. Then, from somewhere behind them, a voice spoke, terrifyingly familiar. It asked with quiet clarity, You saw what? It was not loud. It did not need to be. The air shifted instantly, cooler, heavier, pressing against them from all sides. Every junior moved at the exact same moment, turning as one toward the source of the sound, and all the blood drained from their faces at once.